Hey friends, today I'm talking about food sneaking in kids and some of the common reasons why your child might be sneaking food. Now, I know that this behavior can be really frustrating to encounter and deal with as a parent, but I want you to know that there's definitely some solutions, and I'd love to kind of help guide you through some of the potential reasons why your child may be sneaking food in the first place. And first, I just want to say that some food sneaking behavior can be normal. Kids are curious, they're learning, especially toddlers, kind of figuring out their boundaries. And so, if you're seeing some occasional food sneaking, it might not necessarily be a cause for concern. But if this is a repeating behavior, or you're seeing your child do it consistently, then it might be worth looking at a little bit closer. So I'm going to share some of the common or 4 common reasons with you today that I tend to see kids sneaking food. But just be aware that every person's situation is different. And of course, there can be a variety of different factors in play for your individual child. But these are some of the four big ones that I commonly see. And the first one has to do with not having clear boundaries around food or meals and snacks. So if food kind of feels just like a free-for-all for your child, or there's not, some clear boundaries in place, it can kind of blur the lines of when they're allowed to eat or when they're not allowed to eat. And especially if maybe you're trying to implement a routine, but if it's not consistent, or if you're asking your child to stay out of the kitchen, between meals and snacks, but if they go in there and, there's not a reaction to it, it can kind of blur the lines again for kids where they may not clearly understand when they're allowed to eat or when they're not allowed to eat. So sometimes if there is confusion or misunderstanding around meal times and snack times and when those designated eating times are, that can sometimes trigger a child to want to eat in secret or hide food and eat in secret. So that can be one potential area to look at. The second one, and this is a more common one that I tend to see, is there's not enough exposure to some of the foods that your child might be sneaking or looking for or hiding and eating in secret. So for example, if you notice that your child is tending to gravitate towards sneaking certain foods like snack foods or maybe sweets, that could potentially be an indicator that they don't have enough exposure to them, or they're not getting to eat them frequently enough to help kind of subside any anxieties they're having that, they don't get access to that food. So just remember that feelings of deprivation can be very intense and strong motivators to drive a child to access certain foods. So, even if you're trying to incorporate certain snack foods or certain sweets, if it's not necessarily frequently enough, or if a child doesn't feel like they're getting enough access or necessarily have full permission to eat certain foods, that can absolutely drive some food sneaking behaviors. So again, it's just one area to look at, and sometimes too, when kids don't necessarily feel like they get enough opportunity, they want to sneak and eat it more. But again, if they don't feel like they have permission, then it's something like they might feel like they have to do in secret or hide about it. So access is a big one, and part of that is just, including frequent enough opportunities for your child to get to have some of the foods that they're constantly reaching for or asking for or wanting. Another piece of this is if a child is asking a lot for a certain food, but is constantly met with, no, we can't have that right now. And if all of a sudden it's in the house and they know it's in the house and it's somewhere in the pantry, if they're afraid that they're going to be shut down when they ask for it, then it might trigger that kind of impulse to eat it or find it and eat it in secret. So that's another area that you might want to pay attention to. Reason number 3 is it might be an emotional connection or draw for some children. And I've seen this in more of like the pre-adolescent, adolescent age, especially during this past year where we've all been navigating the pandemic, and our kids especially have been isolated and away from school and the people that they love and they're used to socializing with. So sometimes food can just be a very tangible form of comfort. And again, it's something that kids can feel like is consistent in their life. Like food is consistent. Circumstances around us may be changing and may feel like they're out of our control, but food can feel like something that is consistent. They can go to over and over again and know that it'll be there. So this might be another area just to consider or to think about. Sometimes, if kids are needing more emotional connection or feeling lonely or bored, food again can be something tangible that kind of fills that spot. So this might be worth something looking at if you notice that your child has, the repeated behaviors of food sneaking. Okay, and the last potential reason or issue here to consider is, kids might just be legitimately hungry. And sometimes as parents, we might underestimate how much our child needs to eat or how frequently they need to eat. And especially kids in the pre-adolescent, adolescent age group who are definitely going through a lot of growth and development, they might just need more opportunities to eat throughout the day. And sometimes when kids are hungry, but they don't feel like they have permission to eat, or there's not necessarily a snack time or meal time coming in their foreseeable future, then that can sometimes trigger the impulse to sneak food too. So again, just one area to consider. There are multiple reasons. Again, I'm just covering some of the big ones that I see, but in some kids, it can be a combination of many different factors. So I want you to know, if you're dealing with this or seeing this in your own child, you're not alone, you're not failing. There is a way to kind of work through this. And I think if you can kind of identify some of the reasons, potential causes that might be influencing food sneaking, it can help you address it in a way that you and your child can move through it together. So I'm going to link in the comments a blog where I talk about this more, as well as a way to work through it if you are dealing with this with your own child, or if you catch your child sneaking food in the moment, what can you do? So I've got you covered in the blog. Check it out. It's in the comments below. And please feel free to leave any questions you have about this. I'd love to learn how I can help support you. All right. Thanks for watching, guys.